Hi, kitty cats. Sex. It's a whole lot of fun, but it also changes dramatically during gender transition. So, if you want to make your sex life better, stay tuned because I am going to talk about how to keep intimacy alive during and after a medical gender transition. Before I do anything, let me talk about the URLs that are cycling down below. I'm Amethysta Herrick. I'm an author and a podcaster. The links below there, you can use those to find more information about me and the work I do. The first one there actually is just about to come up. The first one there is my personal website, and that's amethysta.io. You can find all the social media networks I'm on, and you can follow me for updates on anything I do. My professional website is gender-identitytoday.com. There it is. All my articles and podcasts are published there, as well as work from other contributors. So if you like this, please consider subscribing to gender-identitytoday.com. You can get a subscription for as low as $2 a month. And if you want to contribute, because I do accept contributions, please reach out to me on through my personal website. And then there's also one more link that says you can leave a tip if you want to, and that goes to coffee.com. It's right there. All right, before I do anything else, I'm going to try and see if I can make somebody a moderator, and I'm seeing right here, I don't know how to do it. That's a real bummer. I'm trying. Well, dang, I guess I don't know exactly how to do it. Shoot. If anybody knows how to help me do this, I'm using Firefox, and maybe that's my problem. But all right, let me move on to an introduction, a disclaimer. I got a question, so should be some option. I know it says to click on your profile, and then for some reason it's not doing anything, and that's a real bummer. I don't see any other settings for chat or for the live stream. So shoot. Share my live? No, that's all I got. Well, dang. All right, I'm going to move on. Hopefully, this isn't as horrible as it has been in the past in terms of, people leaving comments, but we'll see. There's no menu, no mount. When I click on you, I get no menu. I have the feeling it may be because I'm using Firefox instead of Chrome. And who knows? All right, so here's the point. I got a question this week about sex from a transgender woman. And the point was that, she had said things are changing, and she wondered how you change along with, the gender transition. And so when I went through transition, here's the point. I experienced some very major changes, and I've also spoken with a whole lot of people who say the same. So what I'm going to do in this live stream is go over my experience and what I know from what others have said. So some caveats here. I can only speak from my experience. Your gender transition is going to be different. I'll just tell you that right now. My experience also may not be entirely typical. Turns out I have an intersex characteristic, that is a partial androgen insensitivity syndrome that changes how my transition has occurred. And further, I can only speak from the trans femme perspective. I wish I could talk about trans masc perspective, but I have not spoken to enough people, to be able to do that completely. I also want to point out I am not a medical doctor. I do have a doctorate degree in analytical chemistry. That is a research doctorate. It is not like a medical doctorate. So I do not have experience treating patients in a medical facility. I do have experience talking with transgender women and the clients that I coach. So here's my disclaimer. I'm going to read this. The information I am about to discuss is for informational purposes only. None of this information is intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you have regarding a medical condition or treatment. All right, there's my little blurbs there. All right, so general thoughts about dysphoria, gender dysphoria. When I first began gender transition, I will wholeheartedly admit I did not realize that I had dysphoria around my reproductive parts. Like I started and I thought, well, that's, I'm cool. I'm all right. But about a year in, that's when I realized I did. And it was actually August of 2023, so a little more than a year ago. I realized that I really, really wanted some sex, but I really, really didn't want to have to use those parts either. So I bring this up to say that I recognize that in many transgender people, there is a psychological barrier to intimacy, simply from rebelling against our own bodies. Intimacy as a whole decreased in the 2 years before I got gender-affirming surgery, and I'm going to get to that. But I do want to say, when we talk about sex, particularly from the transgender experience, you have to remember that you're going to need to be gentle to yourself. This is going to be a very difficult period in your life. You're getting used to relating to people, first of all, in a completely new way, and that also includes sex partners. So that's important. So things are going to change. Your outlook about yourself is going to change. Your biochemistry is even going to change. Your body is going to change, and the way that you relate to your body is going to change. There may be some barriers you're not going to be able to overcome. Hormone replacement therapy, HRT, can and probably will shrink some parts, all right? As your body switches over to using estrogen, it realizes it doesn't need some of the physical parts, and so it's going to start trying to get rid of them and change the way that they work. HRT, maybe, it might affect your ability to get an erection, and it may affect your ability to have an orgasm. Now, some of these effects are biochemical, but you can change how you relate to them. So now that I've said this, I'm going to check a couple of messages here. Let's see, I've got hi Amethysta, hi Ned7000, good to see you. Let me see. So, which bitch? Thank you for following. That's awesome. Let's see. Try using the phone app. You know, you're right. There is a bunch of mutes needed. I'm going to tell you, I wish I could tell you how to do this. Firefox, why did I do this? I shouldn't have done this. So Cam says, maybe I should talk to a therapist or somebody IDK. I've actually talked to a therapist, and I'm going to move on to certain things here, but I don't really want to dwell on some crummy, to dwell on some of these crummy comments that I'm going to get here. So I wish I could figure out how to add mods. So, all right, let me move on to talk about how my body changed. There are big biochemical effects of hormone replacement therapy, of HRT. Biochemistry, human biochemistry, truly is determined by hormonal balance. That's the balance of how much testosterone you have in your bloodstream versus how much estrogen you have in your bloodstreams. I will tell you, as a geneticist, you have the genetics, because my original background was in molecular biology and genetics, in particular genetics. And I will tell you, you have the genetics to develop every human characteristic. There is no such thing as male and female genetics, no such thing as male and female biochemistry. But certain aspects of human development are turned on or off based upon that hormonal balance. And what's ironic here, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, much of this is not studied. I mean, it's a bummer, but any woman out there, presumably not some of the people who are in the TikTok chat here, but I'm sure there are women out there who are going to say that, yeah, they've gone to the doctor and the doctor just didn't know their biochemistry. For the most part, medicine is more interested in talking about symptoms and mitigating symptoms than figuring out what's wrong. And so in any event, what I'm trying to say here is that human development and human genetics change based on this hormonal balance, and we don't completely know everything about them. So just keep that in mind. What HRT did to me, first off, it caused me to develop breasts. And these are real breasts. Like I said, there's no male and female genetics. I have the genetics to develop every human characteristic there is, physical characteristic there is. These are real breasts. My biochemistry changed and my body responded. So I got real breast buds, and they have grown over the course of this 2.5 years. How they feel changed dramatically. And it's more than just like physically. How I felt about my chest psychologically changed. And also how my chest actually feels physically changed as well. I've got a couple of comments here that I want to go through here. Biology is facts, can't just make up stuff. No joke, Allie K. That's what I'm doing. I'm actually teaching biology, so there you go. Medicine is not based on facts. Not always. Medicine is based on things that people like I do. Research scientists. Research scientists are the ones who determine how biology works, and then medical professionals are the ones who help patients through that. So, Samara, thank you. I don't know if Allie K has a biology degree, but there you go. So let's see. Which bitch? I designed this. This pendant here. It's very fun. Barn owl, thank you. I love my hair color. All right, going back. HRT also caused reproductive parts to shrink. So, just to be a little bit graphic here, my penis did get smaller. My erections were less erect. I don't know exactly what word I want to use there. My testicles shrank a lot, and it became more difficult to get aroused. And it became more difficult to have an orgasm. The volume of ejaculate at orgasm also dropped. All of these things, like I said, when you change your biochemistry, your body, like my body was not running on testosterone, and it realized, okay, look, I don't need to use these parts to generate testosterone anymore. And so that's why they started to atrophy ultimately, and that's why some of these things start to occur. Okay, so let me see. Which bitch? No, sorry, actually I don't. This is the only one in the world. There you go. I also want to say the nature of orgasms changed. When I was presenting as a man, well, I'll put it like this. When my body was predominantly under the effect of testosterone, orgasms were like this huge bomb, and then like recovery. And it evolved into what became more of a full body experience. The orgasm actually affected more of my body. The sensations were different. And I thought of it as if I connected more to myself. And psychologically, sex had stopped feeling shameful. It stopped being quite as shameful as it was, even with parts that I didn't really like. Now, I have guesses as to why this happened. When I was going through a gender transition, when you take those first steps, I had started affirming who I am. And I think that by affirming who you are, you form a much better bond with who you are. And aside from that, I think I also formed a better bond with my wife. And I think that was important as well. So I don't want to, now having said these psychological changes, I don't want to discount the biochemistry involved either. My experience evolved ultimately into how I had heard women experience sex. And I think that my experience, how it changed, is only partly based on psychology, partly based on anatomy. All right, so let me see. What do I got? Raven Lovecraft, thank you for following. Barn Owl, you're very welcome. This is something I didn't expect ever to discuss, frankly. I'm going to throw this all out here because, I think that there are people who need this. If I got a question, I'm going to share my own experience because, if I don't, then nobody's going to understand what this means. So there you go. All right. In my own sex life, what have I done differently? I'm going to say that no matter what happens, when you go through a medical gender transition, you're going to have to change how you approach sex. For the most part, and, feel free to disagree on this, but men go into sex with a goal. And that goal is orgasm. That's generally about it. Women, on the other hand, tend to go into sex with a lesser goal. They tend to want to form a connection. They want to express love. They want to celebrate themselves and their partner. They want to express some caring. And then orgasm, ends up being less, less of a goal. So as transgender women, as we go through these medical transitions, we have to reframe how we see ourselves. And a large part of that is to say, You have to reframe how you experience your bodies. Now, I will tell you, this is difficult. It's very difficult because we've spent whatever number of years possibly hating our bodies. So it's going to take time to change. And so I'm going to revert back to what I was saying. Always be gentle with yourself. Matt, if you can send put something in chat on how to add you as a mod in Streamlabs, that would be great. I think I do have to do it before the live. So, all right, I'll keep that in mind. So practical advice. Here's practical advice for your sex life, right? The biggest thing is to explore different sensations. When I was presenting as a man, how about if I say this again? When my biochemistry was predominantly testosterone based, I hated having my nipples touched. I hated it. And I'm guessing part of that, for what it's worth, had to do with not having breasts, because that's what I felt would have been normal. And so I don't think I liked it before. Now I love having my breasts touched, and for what it's worth, I actually have had an orgasm just from having my breasts massaged. My doctorate is in analytical chemistry. So I'm not going to even bother reading your name, then now you know what my doctorate is in. So that's chest. In general, your skin, my skin, got more sensitive. And so I had to try many different touches. Some of the things that really made me just melt, having a partner hold me from behind so that I could feel her against my back was phenomenal. Touching my inner thighs, that was big. Touching my buttocks, touching my stomach. I mean, like, I didn't even think about this. All of this opened up to me because of my medical transition. It's interesting. Changes to how I had to approach reproductive parts. Like I said, these may give you dysphoria, and you're going to need to be gentle with yourself. But how these parts changed, or how these parts should be touched, changed. And so what I had to do, honestly, was just kind of re-explore what even excited me. You know, that was interesting. I have not entirely, gone through all of this, but other people I have talked to, you may want to try other avenues that you haven't tried before. Maybe that's anal penetration. Maybe that's stimulating your prostate. Maybe rather than having penetrative sex, you change to using your hands or your mouth. And you need to accept, for now, that sex may not even mean an orgasm. It's a bummer, maybe, but again, you want to reframe who you are. That's the thing. You need to reframe how you relate to yourself. So I want to go, what changed, I think, at a high level, because I talked a little bit about biochemistry, that was physical. Here's what changed, like, in general. So first of all, let me see. So Zubbles, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but is saying everybody getting this university class level discussion for free is amazing. Thank you. That's why I do what I do. I appreciate your comment there. All right, what changed at a high level? At this point now, before I even got surgery, I required more stimulation and far longer stimulation than I did before. If you're a woman, you're probably going to end up saying, yeah, it's pretty common. Yeah, men go into sex and sometimes they're just like, I'm ready to go, bang, done, I'm out of here, gonna get a sandwich or something. But I started needing much more foreplay. I needed much more touching. And at the end of the day, the way I would put this is I needed more affirmation that I was worthy of this contact, of celebrating myself and celebrating the act. I also, very interesting, I needed a much lighter touch than I did before. And I think this is one of the most difficult aspects that I needed to understand, because I was used to a rougher touch, but once I started a medical transition, like, that overstimulated me very quickly. So that's an interesting tidbit too. It was also much more difficult for me to get excited and to reach orgasm with all the things that worked with when I was under the effects of testosterone. And at the end of the day, I think this makes perfect sense. I did experience biochemical changes. And some of those biochemical changes are neurological. Your nerves change some. The way that your body responds changes. And some of this is just because of hormonal balance. There you go. I see that Ayla, Ayla the Tanuki says, tummy is much more sensitive. Yes, it was the same with me. I used to hate that because it was like, ooh, I'm tickling. Ooh, ay. But now it feels great. You know, I love the sense of just being touched now for what it's worth. And the thing is that you really are just going to have to explore yourself all over again. As you go through a gender transition, your mind and your body change. They're different. What you liked before may change. And the thing is that you're going to need to respect both body and mind. This re-exploration process is part of the gender transition process. I'm going to tell you, it's one of the most, what words do I want to use? It's one of the most exciting and fascinating parts of the gender transition process because you're learning yourself all over again. You're learning to love yourself, learning to love your body, learning to have a real relationship with yourself. So at this point now, I've talked about everything pre-surgery was the intent. It was supposed to be the pre-surgery. Now I'm going to talk about, because I did go through gender-affirming surgery in July of 2024. So it was very recent. And in fact, if you're interested, if you go to my profile page, if you go to my channel, there was a whole ton of information about how I went to Thailand for gender-affirming surgery and got the surgery, was recovering from it, and then finally got back to the US and everything. So I'm just over 4 months of recovery at the making of this video. And what's great is that everything changed all over again. Before I do this, I'm going to address a couple of comments. One person says, why not just deal with the gender dysphoria instead of dealing with all the wacky things after surgery? If you listen to this part here, I'm going to tell you exactly why not. And enjoying life 24/7, presumably you've never experienced chronic gender dysphoria. Because if you have not, I don't know if you're going to exactly get this. Gender dysphoria, especially when it's chronic gender dysphoria, seeps into every aspect of who you are. It's not the kind of thing that you just end up going, oh gosh, I got a little bit of gender dysphoria. I'm fine. But, my life has been flagged for sexually suggestive content. That's no joke. So the point is that I did, so you, when you deal with gender dysphoria, it's not the kind of thing you just kind of go, I'm going to ignore it. Same thing as if you had horrible depression. You work with your depression, horrible anxiety. You work with that anxiety. So why not just deal with it? Yeah, why not just deal with whatever problem you've got? If you have a problem and you wanted to do something about it, I'll send the question right back to you, All right, here we go. Post-surgery, what I had to do is re-explore my body. Again, I told you, you're going to have to go and do it before surgery, assuming you ever go and get surgery, and you're going to have to do it after surgery as well. So physically and psychologically, I had to think again about who I was and what I portrayed and how I related to myself. I am literally in a different configuration, and I need to understand that. So I'll tell you, I spent weeks just figuring out how everything else works. So I had to figure out how I wanted to be touched, where I wanted to be touched, what it feels like, where I got touched. And along the line, I said I was 4 months into this. Along the line, the nerves have continued to come back online. So, and as they do, all of this has to be redone to a certain extent. So it keeps on changing. And actually, I find that kind of exciting because now I get to discard much of what I knew about sex. Now I get to learn to relate to myself and my body in a positive manner. And I get to learn about myself, and I get to learn to love myself. And that is amazing. All right. I mean, there is nothing like that. Let's see. Samara Nicole, thank you for following. How do I contrast autogynephilia and gender dysphoria? Let freedom ring. I totally want to address that, but I'm going to do it after. I'm going to do that after I finish all this stuff. Okay, so stay tuned. I don't know enjoying life, which we're even talking about. If you're depressed, you're not going to think I could change to an animal. You're going to deal with depression. Okay, what I did was deal with gender dysphoria. So, yeah, thanks. I mean, I do appreciate that. So, let's see. Post-surgery, how did I... Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. I've got a couple of things in YouTube as well. Well, Tender Breeze, thank you. You know, it is fascinating to think about how hugging was just different, you know? Oh, gosh. See, that's interesting. So you asked your lady girlfriends to hug you from behind. That's cool. Well, anyway, yeah, their boyfriend was being too soft, made them look at you differently. Well, you know, ultimately that's good. I think it's good. All right. Stimulation. Here's how stimulation changed post-surgery. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the surgery for what it's worth because it's important. At this point, now I have a reconstructed clitoris. Some of the clitoris was reconstructed from parts of a penis. Okay, so there you go. It's very sensitive now. Interestingly, it seems like it's more sensitive than when it was part of the glands of a penis. So sort of interesting. I will also tell you, I do not have a reconstructed vaginal canal. I did not opt for that type of surgery. I got a minimal depth vaginoplasty, so I cannot speak, unfortunately, to the sensations from a canal. But I will tell you what I've heard from other transgender women. My understanding is that the canal itself will end up with very few nerves attached. And I got this also from the surgeon, by the way. The actual vaginal stimulation is likely to be very minor, but when the vulvoplasty, so this is the stuff on the outside, during that surgery, the prostate gland itself gets moved some so that it's closer to where a neovaginal canal would be. And since the prostate gland moves some, apparently it's also a little easier to like reach. It doesn't take anal stimulation anymore. It could go through a neovaginal canal, but then it's also closer to the surface. And so just, you know, some thumb pressure there may do it. So you may receive stimulation by penetration there, but again, maybe not. So it would be remiss of me to say that there is no risk that you will not experience orgasm after surgery, because there is a risk. I was willing to take this risk, and it paid off in spades, and I will get to that in a sec. But there is a small risk your nerves will not reconnect properly. What you can do to affect that, you can care for yourself as best as possible directly after surgery for the best results. Now I will talk about orgasm after gender-affirming surgery. Maybe this is about all you came for. But before I do, hang on. Let me run through a couple of comments here. Let's see. So, Ayla. So you hopefully it's Ayla and not Isla. But so you transitioned at 17. You just had bottom surgery. Congratulations to you so much. Congratulations, because it changed so much about how I looked at myself and how I felt about myself, and it continues to change even over these four months. So, Frybird, hey! All right, so here we go. Ayla says, it feels like a stimulating pressure in the canal. Thank you. I appreciate your feedback and being really willing to share that. So there you go. Let freedom ring. I do agree. It is a respectful and legitimate question. I'm going to get to you. No joke. Let's see. Orgasm after gender-affirming surgery. Sex post-surgery is great. The orgasm post-surgery has all of the good parts of all of the sensations and none of the bad parts of my body image. And I don't know that I can describe that to anybody. Somebody who's going to come into comments and call me some sort of weirdo, maybe I just can't describe that. All right. But orgasm has gone from like this bomb drop to full body experience, as I mentioned before, as my biochemistry changed. And now that my configuration has changed, it is like this full soul experience. It is like connecting to the universe and just 30 seconds worth of downloading pure ecstasy into my body. And I have no way to describe it. It is so phenomenal, I will tell you. All right. So I do want to, Matt, thanks. You said there's a form of vaginoplasty that preserves the nerves. I would love to hear about that if you can. So a friend had it 2 days ago, supposed to make dilating difficult. I'd love to hear more if you can connect me to the friend, or if I can even just hear about the procedure, because I know of, well, total of 4 different types. A minimal depth vaginoplasty, which of course doesn't have a neovaginal canal, and then 3 different ways of making a canal. So thank you. You'll check, send some info. Cool. All right. Before I sum up, let me see what I got here. Frybird says, I've been glowing up these past months. Very true. Let's see. Yes, ALF feels so much confident in everything. Oh, it's so crazy, isn't it? It really is. I had a series of videos, 2 or 3 videos about how my perception of myself changed, then my perception to how I relate to the universe and to to society, like, changed, and it was great. So, all right, let freedom ring. You waited long enough. I'm going to tell you. How do I contrast autogynephilia and gender dysphoria? So gender dysphoria is characterized by a sense of failing to fulfill social expectations. There are gender characteristics that are inherent in every social environment, and when we fail to fulfill them, it hurts because we get some sort of social backlash. In fact, all you have to do is look in this comment section and you'll see there's backlash because I don't want to conform to masculine gender characteristics. That's gender dysphoria. Autogynephilia in DSM-5, because autogynephilia, for those of you who don't know, is a specialization put on top of other gender dysphoria issues. So autogynephilia, the way that it's defined, because it was created by a guy named Ray Blanchard, not particularly all that long ago, and the idea is that men ultimately want to have sex with themselves as women. They find themselves attractive enough that it becomes sexually exciting. So I don't have those feelings. I never had those feelings when I would dress up. It was not for the sake of sexual stimulation. It was for the sake of feeling more comfortable. So I have done a video, I've done some stuff about autogynephilia. There's also a person on YouTube who tore apart my video on autogynephilia, because why not? But while autogynephilia exists in DSM-5, I'm not going to say that it explains the transgender experience. I have spoken to running on probably 200 transgender people, both men and women, transgender men and transgender women. And sexual stimulation is not what we do this for, believe me. To answer your second question, let freedom ring, do I feel better post-transition? I don't, like, if I were to go on a number scale, I would probably go from about 1 to 1,000 post-transition. The way I have put it when I've given interviews, I went from 52 years of living as a man, and I was a crabby, fat, old man hoping I was going to die as soon as possible. Now, not quite 2.5 years later, I am a vibrant and a happy woman embracing life. Do I feel better? I have 2 words. Fuck yeah. All right, let me move forward a little bit more. No, it's that not a real thing. I'm not really sure that. Oh, anti-absence of color says it isn't that it's not a real thing. So I did say created because for the most part, anti-absence of color, transgender people, transgender women I know don't believe that this actually if it addressed us, I think we'd go, yeah, sure, totally. But it doesn't typically. So there you go. No doubt, Ayla says AGP has been debunked. That's autogynephilia again. They didn't use a control group. It's hilarious. I have read enough of Ray Blanchard to recognize it doesn't apply to me. And, just because, somebody else says, Frybird says, just because you don't understand doesn't make it not real. So, and that's true. So anyway, there we go. Let's see. So thank you, Sherry. I am a scientist. I don't just make stuff up. Thanks. All right. Let freedom ring. You're very welcome. Hopefully that helped. I absolutely want to be straightforward. I want to provide thoughtful responses because if I don't, you'll never know, right? Not you in particular, but the whole world will never know what it's like, what it means to be transgender because that's just how it works. If you don't feel the thing, there you go. Anti-absence of color asks, where did I go to school? I got a BS in chemistry in 1993 from University of California at San Diego, where I started off as a molecular biologist, in particular in genetics, because I wanted to study the molecular biology and genetics of what it meant to be me. I ended up going on to do a Ph.D. in analytical chemistry at University of Georgia when I graduated in 1998, and my dissertation was about semiconductor surface physics, electronics, and surface structure. So hopefully anti-absence of color, that tells you something about myself. All right, let's see. I'm going to sum up this conversation about sex, and I'm going to say this. As you transition gender, you can have good sex during and after a medical gender transition, but you are going to have to explore all aspects of your body again. Your body's changing. Your psychology is changing, and you have to be willing to change with it. And the thing is that this doesn't stop. Your relationship with your body continues to change throughout life, which is fine. Ultimately, the way I think about it, this is a beautiful process, even if it feels a little bit annoying as you do that. So as you go through this transition, I do recommend try different ways to experience your body. You're going to have to do this anyway, because as you transition, you're just going to have different sensations, different feels, and it's great. It's so grand. Sex is about those experiences. And I'm going to tell you, you may have to learn sex is not about orgasm. And that's hard for a transgender woman who's gone through however many years of being socialized as a man. Because we learn that's what sex is. You're supposed to go in, you get it done, you leave. Like I said, go get a sandwich or something. There you go. Sex is about our experience, not necessarily about orgasm. Now, I recognize this is a very different way to think about sex, and at least it was for me. So I will once again drop, be gentle with yourself. I got this actually from a friend of mine named Lindsay Bindman. I actually recorded a podcast with her yesterday that I believe she just released. So if you want to hear about this, go to my personal website, and I'm going to put this on social media soon, so you can follow me on social media and you can see. But Lindsay Bindman gave me this word called unlearning, and that's the idea of challenging all of your understanding of anything, all that you've ever thought about your entire life. It's a way of challenging it and then figuring out, what do you really believe? And as you go through a gender transition, both social and medical, you are unlearning who you were. You are relearning who you truly are. Hopefully that helps. That's my summary. I have 21 minutes, and now I'm going to take ugly questions if people have ugly questions for me. Let me see. Okay, where'd I go to school? I already talked about that. Alabama City Middle School. Well, I don't want to dump on anybody. All right, let's see. 20 years ago. So, anti-absence of color apparently went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Well, did you get a Ph.D. there? Anti-absence? I'm just curious. Um, All right, so there's some funny stuff here that I don't want to dump on. Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome, Frybird. I am prolific. I definitely want people to understand, everything about being transgender. Yasmin, thank you for the gift there. Actually, Matt also. Oh, and Sherry, thank you. That's so nice. Sherry says she's been honored to be able to follow me through the last part of this transition. It's been such a time. Such a time. I love it so much. It's been great. So Ayla, ooh, this is a good question. Here we go. Ayla says, do Wolf Among Us, yes. Thank you for the laughs. You're killing me. All right. Ayla asks me, do I feel that HRT altered my sexuality at all? I'm having a conversation because I have a friend of mine whom I met, it was a couple of years ago now, but I met her and she said that as she changed, did her medical gender transition, particularly after surgery, her sexuality changed some. She's found that she started becoming more attracted to men. I'm of the opinion, and this is an opinion, not at all a fact, but this is an opinion just based on who I am. Okay, so there you go. So Ayla says you used to like men more, but now you like women more. Now that's fascinating. Because I kind of went the other direction. I've been pansexual my whole life. Like I always have looked at boys and looked at girls and gone, it's so wonderful that I can see beauty like everywhere. It's a shame to me when somebody says, oh no, I am 100% one kind of sexual. And I go, ooh, pardon me, well, you're shutting off half of the population there, aren't you? But so here's the thing. I've always been pansexual, but I would probably say I leaned about 70% women, 30% men. I've only had a few relationships with men, ultimately. So Matt Adlin says, I'm like 85% straight. I want you to know that's going to be preserved for posterity, my friend. Thank you. Anyway, so always been pansexual. An interesting little fact. I went to the gym recently and I was cleaning off it was a latissimus dorsi type pull down thing, whatever you call those. Clearly I don't go to the gym much, but it was a lat pull down machine. And we're supposed to be using like this little rope. Okay, so there's a rope and it has these little plastic, just from this gesture. Presumably you're getting where I'm going with this. But it has these little plastic nubbies on the end. All right. And part of going to the gym and being a good gym member is cleaning up after yourself when you're finished. Right. Because this is what you should do. So I'm using the, this sanitization spray. Great. The sanitization spray. And I'm rubbing down the rope, clean the seat and everything. And I did it on the little nubbies. Okay. And immediately I went, ooh, yikes. Because I thought, ooh, this is like playing with testicles again. And it was crazy because I went, ooh, wait a minute. I thought it was like 30% men. And it was weird because now I'm looking at myself going, maybe not. So to answer your question, finally, I think my sexuality did actually change a little bit. I think I like women more. But I know people who would never admit to themselves that they would have liked men. Oh, and I don't know that I ever said that. My opinion on my friend, as well as a couple of other friends, is that the more that we end up thinking about ourselves and accepting ourselves, the better we are in tune with what we find attractive. And so I think that when people start becoming attracted to men as they go through a gender transition, I think that's part of it. I think it's a little bit is being able to accept who you are. And so I think that's an opinion of mine. But strangely enough, I have tended more toward women. So I don't know why that is, but all right, let's see. Frybird says she'd date a woman or a trans woman, or even somebody non-binary possibly, but never again will I deal with man BS. And there you go. That's how it goes. So, all right, Rodolfo Erdogan, hopefully I said that properly, asks a question about autogynephilia. I would like you to explain if that's a question or if you're just trying to insult me, because I did talk a little bit about AGP earlier. AGP, I believe, is a very poor way to characterize the transgender experience. I will not say it doesn't exist, because I know it does. It definitely does. Because there are people who say it explains them entirely. It did not explain me. And as a result, we cannot say that autogynephilia is a universal explanation for the transgender experience. And I will tell you, I did a video about this, and that's the conclusion I come to. In no way do I say it doesn't exist, because if it didn't, psychologists would not put this in DSM-5. But it certainly does not explain me. And, I think that's kind of the thing about the medical profession, kind of the thing about just being human, is that some things apply to us and some things don't. We don't need like one single explanation for who I am. That's just because that just doesn't happen. Who we are is much more complicated than just, one word. And whether or not I want to have sex with myself. So, all right, over here in TikTok, I'm looking at, they're talking about dating and how it's a bit of a bummer. Gary asks, wait, Rodolfo, why would you say I don't like AGP as an explanation? I just told you I know that there are people who do. And I'm cool with that. If you feel that it explains you, then that's fine. But see, like, there are symptoms that there are aspects of gender as well that I don't really relate to. Like, the things that are important to me are hair. Hair is important. Eye makeup is important. And shoes, interestingly. But there are people who don't care about their shoes. They don't care about their hair. This is because there are certain parts of how we relate to our social environment. Some people think they're important and some people don't. And Rodolfo Erdogan, I disagree. I am not a dude. I am a woman. And if you cannot face that, maybe the point is, like, you can drop out of this live stream at any time. It's really cool. So Yasmin says, I'm beautiful, I have cute purple hair. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, oh my gosh, Frybird, definitely dye it purple or something. All right. Any other questions? I have 12 more minutes that I'm willing to take questions. What do we got? The face of the Democratic Party, Chase003 says, Chase apparently has a license to kill. That's pretty dang neat. I had no idea. So I never talk about politics because I don't think it's exactly, I don't think it's very efficient. It really doesn't lead anywhere. Constructive. That's what I'm really looking for. It's not constructive to talk about politics. I will say this. I am not registered Democratic. I am registered independent, which may surprise people. But here's the thing. We live in what's called a democratic republic, not a democracy. And the people we elect are supposed to represent us. And they don't. They don't represent me. Maybe they represent you. Who the hell knows? If so, I guess, go at it. But the people who run for office typically don't represent me, which is why I registered independent. So hopefully that explained. We'll see. All right, what else do we got? Don't engage, just report. You know what? People like Rodolfo, if he's having a good time, like trying to hack on me, the thing is, I've brought this up a couple of times. When you make a mean comment toward me, what you do is define yourself, not me. I mean, some people really think that they've, they're going to make me feel bad for throwing some shade at me, throwing some sort of hate at me. And here's the point. I know who I am. And because I know who I am, that's why I'm capable of going on and doing a live stream like this and enduring the jerky hate that some people want to throw at me. Like what, you're telling me about yourself. You're not telling me about myself. You're not telling me about me. Paper, pumpkin, pepper. Ooh. I'm going to say that again because I liked it. Paper, pumpkin, pepper. One more time. Paper, pumpkin, pepper. I may do that for the remaining 10 minutes and then everybody's going to drop off. But Paper, pumpkin, pepper says they just want an emotional response. Very true. Very, very true. Matt says, let them get the clowning they so desperately need. Very true. Anyway, it is interesting that people want to come in here and make me feel badly, and it's a bummer. I don't, like here's somebody who's dropping MAGA. Like that's the whole comment, MAGA. Right. The thing is true. I think we should, make America gendered again. Right. I think that's what that's supposed to mean. Frybird replies to that with magnets. How do they work? What is that? That's like insane clown posse? What the? What is that even? So, all right. Anyway, what else do we got? I got something or another, a couple minutes left, 9 minutes left. What do we got? It's an honest question. Oh, River. Hi, River. How you doing? All right. Okay. So River says it's an honest question about AGP. I don't think it's a bad question. Like, honestly, I don't. I mean, Rodolfo says, oh, of course I don't like AGP as an explanation. Well, I don't when it's being applied to me and I've read what it means and I can say it doesn't. Autogynephilia is something that, Ray Blanchard would never have published something if, oh, thank you, Frybird. It is Insane Clown Posse. Ray Blanchard would never have published something, would never have had people like actually trying to verify his results if there weren't some people who said it describes them. But it doesn't describe me. And I mean, if you go and you look at yourself and if somebody says, oh, I am a diehard, Taylor Swift fan, and you go, well, that doesn't describe me. Okay, like how did you know that? Because you don't like Taylor Swift? I've read about AGP and it doesn't describe me. I also don't know if I'm a Taylor Swift fan. That was kind of interesting that I happened to use Taylor Swift because I'm not positive I could name I can name a Taylor Swift song. Actually, come to think of it, there was that, Shake It Off. Shake It Off. There we go. Which is what I was just talking about, right? You come in here and you give me a hard time. What do? I shake it off. Because haters gonna hate. So there you go. All right, River, I didn't know that how much you had thought about gynephilia, so thank you so much for dropping that comment in there. And so here's the other thing too, because River also brings up if all transgender women are summed up by autogynephilia, how do you explain transgender men? And I think it's fascinating to ask that question because when you throw AGP out to transgender women, you'll generally get people who kind of they go, No. But when I have brought this up to transgender men, and generally they haven't heard of it because it's like, why would you throw this at a trans man, right? But when I've thrown this at a trans man, they immediately go, what? No. Like they know definitively. It's just like a no, not even close. What? No. So it's a fascinating thing. And I don't know if Ray Blanchard talked to any transgender men. I suspect he did not. But, I mean, the guy's still around. There was an interview with him recently. So who knows? Maybe he's continuing his research with transgender men. I don't know. But I wish he would because, that's a good idea. So Ned 7000, this is a fascinating question too. Well, not really a question, but so Ned says, I'm going to say they. Sorry, Ned, I don't know pronouns, so I'm just going to give you a they. Ned's 7000 says, I had a therapist try to convince me that I had in fact been abused as a child rather than pursuing medical transition. There is no shortage of quacks peddling bad psychology. Yes, yes. And I think that's one of the most fascinating aspects of a gender transition. Sometimes you will talk to psychologists, and if they just don't want to agree with you, sure, River, no problem. If a psychologist doesn't want to agree with you, they just won't. And they'll come up with many ways to describe who you are without ever describing you. And I think this happens across a whole lot. Oh, thank you, Ned. So Ned, he, they pronouns. So he says, I think that, the medical profession, as I mentioned earlier on, the medical profession tends to wants to address symptoms. We don't want to think about how to fix things. We don't want to understand things, and it's crazy to me. There's a book, and I don't know when it's coming out, but there's a book that I consulted on, having to do with male and female biochemistry, interestingly. And when I first spoke to the author of the book, she said, so I guess I'm writing a book about gender. And I said, oh, I think you're writing a book about hormones. And she went, why? And I said, because really you're talking about changes in biochemistry due to hormones. And she goes, no doctors ever told me that. And I said, what was the gender of the doctors? And she goes, predominantly men. And I'm like, yeah. See, here's the thing. Men, the medical profession tends to focus on men being the people who pay. And then, predominantly the people who pay. And predominantly the people who are in science, predominantly the people who are in medicine. And so as a result, bits of biochemistry just pretty much get lost. And so anyway, I guess my point here is in this book, hopefully, she's going to end up talking about how hormonal balance is one of the bigger predictors of your biochemistry than genetics or, anything else. Because, there are certainly assigned female at birth people out there who probably have a whole lot more testosterone than I do. That's for dang sure. All right, I got a couple of minutes. Let me see what I got here. Facebook. Okay, even though it was about my gender. Oops. Ayla, I think I missed the rest of that comment. Oh, wait a minute. Look, Taylor Swift took over New Orleans on your birthday weekend. Says terrible. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Paper Pumpkin Pepper, thank you. Paper Pumpkin Pepper says this is the first time video. Just wanted to come in here and provide some backup. So appreciated. I cannot tell you. So, all right, let me see. Hormone question. So are you writing one, Frybird? Let me see. So glad you got to find you on live and hang out a bit. Bye, Sherry. Thank you so much. I'm getting ready to shut this down. Frybird, if you've got a question, drop it in there. I got a couple of, let's see. If I have early menopause, this is a good question that I'm going to tell you. I'm a little unsure if I'm qualified to answer, but the question is, if you have early menopause and don't do hormones, is that bad? I have a friend, actually, is a friend I met through TikTok. Well, two people that I know, actually, both of whom had endometriosis badly enough that not only were their uteruses removed, but their ovaries. And so the ovaries are responsible not just for making estrogen, but also for making testosterone. Interesting little point there. And both of them have had difficulty adjusting to that. One of my friends was, I think early 20s, maybe mid 20s at the time that she had all of that removed, and she has struggled very hard. Is it bad? At this point, she's watched her body deteriorate because it's just kind of how your body needs sex hormones in order to work. It really does. I don't disagree with Ayla, who says the menopause industry is a big scam. They do try to demonize hormones. And I would also say that there's a tremendous amount, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know exactly, how much this is universal. Although Sherry says, look, going off of HRT helped her get osteoporosis. I'm sorry. So Frybird, can it cause mental health issues or body issues? Body issues, yes, absolutely. There is, if you don't have the hormones, that is. So it can cause osteoporosis, but then there are also biochemical issues or biochemical pathways that get shut down if you don't have the appropriate sex hormones, and that's important. It's really important to have some sex hormones because those activate some biochemical pathways, and without that activation, there may be things you can't do. So, all right, I'm looking at 2:00 on the clock. Sure, why not? I'm going to run with it. So I'm looking at 2:00 here, and I am going to shut this down. I will once again give a heart. Thank you to everybody who asked if you could mod. I'll figure this out again next week. Hopefully I was a little bit better at handling, people here on the comments. And I would just say thank you so much. Everybody who showed up, everybody who's going to watch this, thank you so much, because this is what I do to make sure that people understand the transgender experience, because when you understand the transgender experience, I'm going to bet many dollars that you are not going to think that we're weird. So thanks again. Bye. All right. Thanks, Wolf Among Us. Thanks, Frybird. Love you. Julie. Oh, hey, Julie. Julie Beans is here. All right. Bye, Sherry. Bye, everybody.